They told me my dock was illegal. Illegal like it was smuggling contraband across state lines instead of holding up a couple of fishing poles and an old plastic chair. Can you imagine? Something I built with my own 2 hands, plank by plank, lasting 12 years through storms and summers, suddenly branded a threat to civilization. I'm Jack Mercer, 56, and fixing boats has been my life longer than I'd care to admit. When I moved out to Lake Alder, I wasn't chasing luxury. I was chasing silence, the kind of mornings where the only sound was water tapping against wood, and the only smell was fresh coffee. My dock wasn't just lumber, it was my sanctuary. And then came Miranda Hale. Miranda didn't walk down to my dock. She arrived, like a storm front, with lipstick. She wore a navy blazer that looked expensive enough to feed a family of 4 for a week. And she had the kind of confidence that makes you wonder if you're the crazy one. Behind her came Ethan Cole, a quiet accountant who looked like a gust of wind could knock him into the water, and Colin Reeves, a man I'd seen around plenty but never heard speak above a murmur. They carried clipboards, their faces set like they were auditioning for a low-budget courtroom drama. And guess who was playing the criminal? Miranda didn't waste time. No hello, no neighborly smile. "Mr. Mercer," she began, her voice sharp enough to slice bread, "I've sent you 3 warning letters regarding serious violations of community standards. As president of the Lakeside Civic Association, I have full power to order immediate demolition of non-compliant structures." She raised her paperwork like it was the 10 Commandments, or at least IKEA instructions that somehow made less sense. My heart started to pound. Demolition. She was talking about tearing down my dock, the dock where my daughter learned to swim, clinging to the ladder while I coaxed her from the water. The dock where my father, on his dock with this last visit before cancer, taught me to tie a bowline knot. 12 years of memories gone, because a woman in a blazer decided so. "Warning letters?" I asked. "I haven't seen a single letter. My mailbox works fine. What codes am I supposedly violating?" The coffee I'd been enjoying now tasted sour, like something that had turned overnight. Miranda didn't blink. "I don't need engineers or outside inspectors. As president, I can override county procedures in the event of an emergency." Emergency? As if my little wooden dock was about to collapse and drag the whole town into the lake. She pulled out a violation notice and shoved it at me like it was a subpoena. "You have 30 days to comply, but I'm giving you the chance to remove it voluntarily within 24 hours. Voluntarily? Like I should thank her for the privilege. I looked down at the notice. Nothing concrete, just vague language about safety concerns and community standards. The kind of words that sound official but mean nothing, like when a politician says they're exploring options. I turned to Ethan. "You've lived here forever. Ever notice a problem with my dock?" He opened his mouth, but Miranda shot him a glare so sharp it could have sliced his glasses in half. He shut it again without a sound. "Mr. Cole defers to my expertise," Miranda announced. She adjusted her blazer, standing taller, as if height could make nonsense sound true. "This is official business, not up for negotiation." And with that, she spun on her heel, delivered her big finale, 24 hours, Mr. Mercer, and stalked off, her 2 silent shadows trailing behind. I stood there on my so-called death trap, holding the notice in shaky hands. The whole thing felt surreal, like I'd been dragged into someone else's nightmare. So I did what any stubborn boat mechanic would do. I walked the length of my dock, testing each board, stomping hard, solid, every nail and plank as steady as the day I built it. But that night, something gnawed at me, Miranda's certainty, her smugness. So I grabbed a flashlight and crawled under the dock, expecting nothing more sinister than cobwebs and maybe the raccoon I'd been hearing lately. Instead, I saw it. Bolts loose, not from weather, not from age, loosened on purpose, fresh tool marks scratched into the metal. Someone had sabotaged my dock. The anger that hit me wasn't hot, it was cold, like ice water down the spine. This wasn't about safety or standards. This was manufactured danger, a setup. The kind of cartoon villain move you expect from someone twirling a mustache. Only this villain wore perfume and heels that clicked like gunshots on the boardwalk. And as I stared at those bolts, one thought chilled me more than the night air. If this was Miranda's opening move, how far was she willing to go? This wasn't just about a dock. This was war. Wednesday morning should have been quiet. Coffee, sunrise, a couple of ducks arguing like an old married couple. But instead of peace, I had the sour aftertaste of Miranda's ultimatum still stuck in my throat. My dock, my sanctuary, was now supposedly a public menace, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been cast as the villain in a play I never auditioned for. I needed answers. So I walked down the shoreline to see Carl Peters, a retired contractor who'd been building houses since the 72nd. Carl measured his mornings in cups of black coffee and cigarettes. If anyone knew the truth about building codes, it was him. The second I explained Miranda's threats and handed him the violation notice, Carl barked out a laugh that sounded more like a smoker's cough. Jack, she skipped every single legal step in the book. Written notices, 30-day grace periods, board votes, appeal rights, you name it. She can't just declare an emergency because she woke up cranky. Relief hit me so hard, my knees almost gave out. For a second I considered hugging Carl, but he's not really the hugging type. He once shook my hand with a rag still dripping motor oil. Still, relief quickly curdled into rage. I hadn't just been targeted, I'd been played. If Miranda's authority was this flimsy, then what the hell was her endgame? If she was going to play Queen of the Lake, I figured it was time to peek behind the curtain and see what kind of kingdom she was running. That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to take a little stroll past Miranda's place. What I saw made my jaw tighten. Her dock wasn't a dock, it was a floating nightclub. A 15-foot party platform with string lights and Bluetooth speakers. Exposed electrical wiring dangled along the edges like an obstacle course for electrocution. It looked less like a lakeside retreat and more like the set of a reality show destined for a lawsuit. If anyone was running safety risks, it wasn't me with my weathered planks. It was Miranda and her light-up stage fit for Coachella. I snapped photos with my phone, muttering like a low-rent detective. Unsafe wiring, check. Overcrowding, check. Illegal modifications, double check. But the real kicker came when I checked the security footage from my own cameras. 3 nights earlier, Miranda had hosted a birthday party for her granddaughter. Innocent enough, except for the fireworks being shot from the illegal platform, or the kids running dangerously close to those exposed wires, or the adults tossing food wrappers straight into the lake like it was a trash bin at a county fair. And then I saw him, Ethan Cole, the accountant who never spoke above a whisper. He wasn't partying, he wasn't laughing or eating cake. He was quietly circling the dock, snapping photos with his phone. His movements were cautious, deliberate, almost secretive. Every time Miranda glanced his way, he stuffed the phone into his pocket like a teenager hiding cigarettes. That's when it clicked. Ethan wasn't just nervous, he was scared. And he was gathering evidence. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about my dock. This was bigger. Miranda wasn't protecting the community, she was protecting herself. She was creating crises where none existed, playing sheriff of a one-woman Wild West, all while her own setup was the real danger. By the time I went to bed, I had 2 certainties. 1, my dock wasn't the problem. 2, Miranda Hale had been lying to everyone in this community for a long, long time. And Ethan Cole? He might just be the crack in her armor. Thursday morning rolled in crisp and calm, the kind of day when the lake looks like a postcard. Normally, I'd be on my dock with coffee in one hand and a fishing pole in the other, pretending I had the patience for fish. But not today. Today, my stomach felt like it was full of gravel. At 9:30, I spotted movement outside my window. Miranda was back, only this time she wasn't alone. She came armed with a tripod, a mounted phone, and a blazer so stiff it probably needed its own zip code. The whole setup screamed, official broadcast. If you didn't know better, you'd think CNN had sent her to cover breaking news. Local dock threatens civilization. I grabbed my binoculars. From my living room, I watched her gesture wildly at my dock, as if it were a nuclear reactor about to blow. Each jab of her finger looked rehearsed. Each frown felt like she was auditioning for HOA President, the musical. Neighbors drifted over, phones out, curious. To them, it probably looked like Miranda was saving the community. To me, it looked like theater with better props. That's when it hit me. If I didn't fight back, she'd win. She didn't need facts, she had confidence, a tripod, and an audience. And let's face it, in America, confidence and props win more arguments than truth ever will. So while Miranda put on her Broadway performance, I picked up the phone. First call, the Lake Safety Office. My hand was sweaty against the receiver. I paced the kitchen so much, I probably wore a path in the linoleum. Hi, yeah, I'd like to report some questionable modifications on a dock here at Lake Bellevue. I listed exposed wiring, fireworks, overcrowded platforms. The officer's tone shifted instantly from bored to serious. Sir, if what you're saying is accurate, we'll need to inspect immediately. Second call, the county building inspector. Halfway through my spiel, I almost hung up, convinced they'd think I was just some cranky middle-aged guy, with too much time and too much coffee. But when I mentioned children playing near live wires, the inspector's voice sharpened. That's a violation. Send us photos. We'll dispatch a team today. Third call, the state HOA oversight board. This one scared me most. It felt like calling the principal on the school bully, satisfying but nerve-wracking. I laid out everything. Fake warning letters, the 24-hour demolition threat, her claim she could override county law. After a long pause, the woman on the line said, Sir, that sounds like textbook abuse of power. We'll need to investigate immediately. I nearly dropped the phone in relief. Miranda had her live stream. I had the law. Outside, she was still pointing at my dock with the intensity of someone spotting Bigfoot. She looked like she was about to order an airstrike. I almost pitied her. Almost. By noon, just as Miranda was probably wrapping up her live stream with some dramatic closing line, a white county truck pulled up to her driveway. Out stepped a woman in a hard hat, striding with the calm authority of someone who didn't need props to look legitimate. Minutes later, another car arrived. Lake safety official, weathered face, clipboard under his arm, the kind of man who looked like he'd rather be fishing, but had seen too many fools to ignore this one. From my kitchen window, I watched the most satisfying interruption I've ever seen. The county inspector called out, Miss Hale, we're here about reported building code violations. You could almost hear the record scratch. Miranda froze mid-gesture. Phone still live, audience still watching. The sheriff of Lake Bell had just been confronted by the actual law. And in that instant, I realized something. This wasn't just about saving my dock anymore. It was about showing the entire neighborhood that Miranda's empire was built on bluffs, lies, and good camera angles. Her show was about to get canceled. From my kitchen window, I had the perfect vantage point, like I'd bought tickets to a show I never wanted to see but couldn't stop watching. Miranda's live stream froze mid-performance the moment the county inspector said her name. She turned, still gripping her phone like a lifeline, as if she could somehow narrate her way out of reality. Miss Hale, we're here to inspect your property, the inspector repeated, clipboard steady, tone crisp. There was no performance in her voice, no dramatic flair, just authority carved into each syllable. The lake safety officer stepped up beside her, his presence like backup in a Western standoff. Miranda tried to pivot, flipping her phone camera toward the officials. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced to her unseen online audience, we are witnessing government overreach in real time. These people are trying to override HOA jurisdiction. Her voice cracked on the word jurisdiction, and a bead of sweat rolled down her temple, betraying the calm she was trying to project. The inspector blinked, unimpressed. Ma'am, HOA boards have no authority to override county safety regulations. That's not how the law works. The words landed like bricks. A murmur rippled through the crowd. For months, people had believed Miranda's claims because she delivered them with such conviction. Now, with a single sentence, the myth cracked. Miranda doubled down. She marched toward her oversized dock, pointing at the red paint someone had spilled near the posts like it was blood evidence. This community elected me to keep them safe. That dock, she jabbed her finger toward mine, is a ticking time bomb. The inspector didn't even glance at my dock. Instead, she looked at Miranda's platform, taking notes. We'll start here. This extension wasn't part of your original permit, correct? Miranda's face drained. She stammered. Well, the community approved. No, the inspector cut in, calm but firm. The county issues permits, not communities. That one sentence was a guillotine. By now, a dozen neighbors had gathered along the shoreline. Phones were out. People whispered, recording, smirking. Some kids giggled, sensing they were witnessing the adult version of a playground takedown. Miranda lunged toward the violation notice as the inspector taped it to her dock. She ripped at the paper with the same energy my aunt once used on a vending machine that ate her quarters loud, furious, and doomed from the start. You can't do that! I'm the president! This is harassment! Gasps rose from the crowd. It was a meltdown, loud, desperate, messy. The lake safety officer stepped in. Ma'am, your watercraft must be removed from this dock immediately. The electrical hazards make it unsafe. Miranda's jaw dropped. Where am I supposed to put my boat? That's not a county problem, the officer replied flatly. Find compliant storage. It was bureaucratic poetry. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then someone in the crowd laughed. Just one chuckle, nervous at first. But it spread like wildfire. Neighbors who had once cowered under Miranda's threats were now laughing at her, phones raised high, documenting every second. Her live stream was still rolling, capturing her unraveling in high definition. The self-proclaimed savior of the lake was now screaming about conspiracies, tearing down official notices, and threatening lawsuits that nobody believed she could file. Neil, the quiet accountant, who usually melted into the background, stepped forward. His voice was low, but it carried. "You told us you had the authority to override the county. You don't. You've been lying to everyone." It was like watching a crack spread through glass. Her face hardened. But the audience, the neighbors, the officials, even the kids saw it for what it was. The fall of someone who thought intimidation was power. Standing there, I felt a rush of vindication. For weeks, I'd been painted as the unreasonable one. Now the truth was live-streamed, documented, and taped in bright red notices all over Miranda's fancy dock. Her show wasn't just canceled, it was replaced by reality, television, and she was the unwilling star. By Friday afternoon, Miranda's meltdown had escaped the shoreline and colonized every screen within shouting distance of Lake Bellevue. Someone clipped a 42-second video of her shrieking, "I decide what's safe in this community," while ripping down a violation notice, and posted it under the caption, "HOA president loses it at dock inspection." Within hours, it had more shares than a cat dancing to Bon Jovi. Comments rolled in like popcorn. "This is why HOAs are worse than dictatorships. She's 2 raccoons away from full-blown Florida man energy. Give that inspector her own reality show." The forums lit up like Christmas lights strung across a plated, condemned trailer. People who'd once swallowed Miranda's threats whole were suddenly spitting them out. An elderly neighbor admitted, "She forced me to spend $600 fixing my flower beds after claiming they violated safety standards." Attached were scanned receipts, like evidence in a suburban trial. Another posted a voicemail. Miranda threatening a $500 fine for parking too close to his own garage. Caption, "I almost believed her until I watched her unravel on camera." And then came Neil, the accountant, who normally blended into the scenery like beige wallpaper. He uploaded bylaws, financial spreadsheets, and HOA minutes that made Miranda's reign look less like governance and more like a pyramid scheme with hydrangeas. By Saturday, the storm funneled into an HOA meeting. The community center was packed so tight you could smell the collective anxiety, cheap perfume, lawn-mowed sweat, and resentment baked into the wood paneling. Folding chairs squeaked under shifting bodies. People fanned themselves with HOA bylaws, which, for once, were actually useful. Miranda swept in, wearing her navy blazer, chin high, striding like she was about to moderate a presidential debate. But whispers and muffled laughter followed her down the aisle. "It's hard to command respect when half the room has. Seen you on video trying to karate chop a county inspector's paperwork," Neil started. Calm, steady, lethal in the way only a man armed with Excel sheets can be. He read the bylaws aloud. No fines without board vote. No emergency powers may override county jurisdiction. No expenditures without approval. He paused, letting the silence choke her. "Miss Hale has violated all 3. Gasps. Then the receipts appeared on a projector screen. Lumber, wiring, string lights, all purchased with HOA funds, all visible on her dock. You could feel the betrayal land in the room like an unexpected tax bill. "She stole from us." Neighbors stood one by one, unleashing stories that sounded rehearsed from too many sleepless nights. A retired teacher forced to pay $800 for a dangerous fence, later cleared by inspectors. A young couple threatened with $1,000 fines over their lawn. Each tale followed the same script. Miranda invented a crisis, claimed emergency powers, threatened penalties, demanded cash. Then the insurance rep took the floor and dropped the bomb. Miranda's antics had voided the community's policy. Every homeowner was suddenly on the hook for accidents or damage. You could practically hear wallets clamping shut in horror. Miranda tried to salvage control. She stood, eyes blazing, and bellowed, "You can't remove me. I am the president, elected to keep this community safe." Her voice cracked on president, the way my cousins did when he yelled shotgun on family road trips, and then lost the front seat anyway. The board vote was swift, unanimous, and almost anticlimactic. Effective immediately, Miranda Hale was no longer president. The room erupted cheers, clapping, a few shouts of, "Finally!" People hugged, like someone had announced a tax rebate. Relief smelled like coffee and carpet glue. But, as Miranda stormed out, muttering about lawsuits and conspiracies, I couldn't shake the pit in my stomach. She wasn't done. People, like Miranda, didn't fade quietly. They dragged the drama with them like toilet paper stuck to a shoe. And I knew this next act would be uglier. By Monday morning, the drama had officially outgrown our little lakeside neighborhood. It wasn't just one HOA president throwing tantrums anymore, it had metastasized into a full-blown legal case. The county building department released its inspection report, and if a report could smell, this one reeked of stale coffee and cheap toner ink. The numbers alone were enough to make anyone sweat. $12,000 in repairs to bring her dock up to code, $8,500 in fines for unpermitted structures, and just to twist the knife, another $3,000 from the EPA for fireworks, debris, and party garbage polluting the lake. Neil read the total aloud at an emergency meeting, $23,500. You could feel the air drain out of the room. One neighbor whispered, "That's more than I paid for my first car." Another muttered, "That's a financial death sentence." But the county wasn't done. The district attorney's financial crimes unit took one look at Neil's spreadsheets and dove in head first. According to their preliminary findings, HOA funds had been siphoned for Miranda's personal dock, renovations, lumber, lighting, wiring, contractor payments. "This isn't sloppy bookkeeping," a prosecutor told the Bellevue Gazette. "This is deliberate theft." The word theft in bold print made the scandal feel less like neighborly squabbling and more like a Netflix true crime special. Miranda, of course, didn't see it that way. She filmed an exclusive Facebook Live wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, comparing herself to whistleblowers and political dissidents. The comments roasted her alive. "You stole from us, not for us." Miranda Hale thinks she's Erin Brockovich, but she's closer to the lady who calls 911 on lemonade stands. And while she was busy staging her pity party, real lawyers were circling. The DA scheduled a grand jury. Neil, the quiet accountant who used to vanish into beige wallpaper, was suddenly the star witness in a case that could land Miranda in prison. "I never wanted this," he confessed over coffee one morning, staring into his mug like it held the answers. But once you see the numbers, you can't unsee them. Meanwhile, the HOA insurance bomb dropped. Our policy had been voided, thanks to Miranda's antics. No insurance meant every homeowner was personally liable for accidents on community property. Replacement quotes came back triple the old rates. "She didn't just break the law," a neighbor grumbled. "She broke our wallets." But the cruelest blow? The boat. Her prized floating symbol of authority was now a hostage at the marina, accumulating storage fees like barnacles. A maritime lawyer explained it to me with the casual tone of someone talking about grocery coupons. Once fines and fees hit a certain point, the boat can be auctioned. Think of it like repo, but wetter. By now, Miranda owed over $30,000 and counting, more than some families around the lake earned in a year, and the gossip? Ruthless. Children turned her downfall into a playground chant. "My mom says she owes more money than my dad makes in a year." An 8-year-old bragged, and somehow hearing it from a kid made it sting worse than any headline. Kids have a gift for reducing complex scandals to one-liners, faster than CNN can throw up a breaking news banner. Miranda wasn't scary anymore. She was a punchline, a cautionary tale told between bites of potato salad at barbecues. But even as the laughter grew, I couldn't shake the dread. People like Miranda don't crumble quietly. They claw, they drag, they double down. And with the DA closing in and her empire of lies reduced to rubble, I kept asking myself, what desperate move would she try next?